Hello, Aniket.
Yes, ma'am.
So I will start at 6 p.m. So do you have your own some doubts or on?
This is my first session, ma'am.
It's okay. My first session also. I'm
Okay.
asking that are you having your own personal doubts or only to see what will be here? I
I'm just seeing.
will be
Yes.
discussing some questions which are like sample questions related to the assignments that are given for the course. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm started prepare for assignment. So they are very hard questions in there.
Okay. Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Okay. I only have some sample questions, but they will be helpful for you to solve the questions in the assignment.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
So, Vishwas,
Good evening, ma'am.
good evening. So, I will start at 6. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Nikhil. Hello. Yes, I will start, and in the meantime, if people come, then I will let them join. Okay, so this course is on mechanics of fiber reinforced polymer composite structure, and I am one of the TA. And today the live interactive session. Today I'm going to discuss some sample problems based on the assignment 1 and 2. Okay, so first question is, in a composite material, the matrix phase is dash and while the reinforced phase is dash. So in the course that sir has taught, there he talked about what reinforcement phase and matrix phase is. So basically matrix phase is a continuous phase in which the reinforcement fibers are put inside. So when you take it is, as you can see in this diagram, so when they are added and you see a cross section of it, you can see that the fibers can be distinguished from each other, whereas the matrix cannot be distinguished, which shows that the fibers are discontinuous, whereas the matrix is a continuous phase. Okay. Any doubts you can ask in between. The next question is, composite materials have these constituents. So as the definition of composites taught by sir is that it should have more than okay. Nikhil joined. Okay. Hello, Raviraj Singh Rana. Okay, so I have already discussed one question. Should I repeat it for you? Okay, I will repeat that again.
Yes, ma'am.
You
can continue.
I will repeat that one. So the first question I talked about is, in composite materials, the matrix phase is dash while the reinforced phase is dash. So sir taught that, and what happens in a composite is reinforcement fibers are added on a polymer matrix, and then we get a fiber reinforced composite. So here you can see in the diagram that all the fibers can be when you take a cross section of that composite, you can see that all the fibers can be distinguished, whereas the matrix cannot be distinguished. So that shows that the reinforcement fiber is a discontinuous medium, whereas the matrix is a continuous one. And the next question is, composite materials have dash constituents. As the definition of a composite material is that it should have minimum of two and more different kind of materials, which can be actually distinguished by naked eyes. So the answer will be two or more different constituents. As you can see the examples here. Here you can see the carbon fiber and epoxy pipes. Here carbon fiber is one of the constituent and epoxy is a constituent. Whereas in concrete, which has mixture of adhesive, aggravate and lot of other things to make it more strong and increase its structural strength. So it has more than one constituents in it. Whereas there are some kind of composites called hybrid composites, which has even 2 or 3 types of different fibers which are added in the epoxy matrix, and we get a hybrid composite which has more than 2 constituents. Let me add. Okay, so we get the answer that it has 2 or more different constituents in a composite material. Next question is, the constituents in a composite combine on what level? So sir has taught there is a difference between macroscopic scale and microscopic scale. So whenever two materials are combined, they can either form a composite or an alloy. But what is the difference between these two is the scale at which we can see those things. As composites, we can from our naked eye we can visibly see the different constituents in that whole composite. For example, you can see in this diagram these are plates, carbon fiber plates which are made by joining carbon fibers, which is a reinforcement in the matrix epoxy. But you can differentiate different fibers here by your naked eyes. So it is a macroscopic scale. Whereas alloys, you cannot see from your naked eyes the different amount of the different constituents in an alloy, and the percentage of them is very less, like around 0.4% magnesium and any alloy which is formed, and all the chemical components are in a very small size and small quantity. So they can only be seen through microscopes, and this is a picture of an alloy through a microscope. As you can see, you cannot see in alloy the different components through a naked eye, so that is microscopic, and whereas composite is a macroscopic. So answer will be macroscopic level. Next is reinforcements generally act as dash members, whereas matrix acts as this. So basically I put here a table which shows the different properties of a fiber and a matrix. As you can see, the strength of a fiber is very much higher than epoxy, which is epoxy, silicon carbide, polyamide. These are all used as matrices, and carbon fiber, Kevlar, glass fibers are used as fibers. So from this data, you can visually see that the mechanical strength of these fibers is very much higher than the matrix. That's why they are the one which are load bearing. But they individually has good load, but when combined, when we take a bunch of fibers, they don't give us good properties, but to make as they have many flaws and voids in it. So to make them to increase their strength more, they are binded with each other by using this matrix. Okay, so glass fibers, each fiber has good strength, but when you combine all the fibers together, it can has flaws and it will not give you good properties. Whereas to improve its property, we add it in the matrix, which like epoxy or USP, anything you take, and then the whole property of that composite improves. So here matrix is used as the binder, whereas the main load bearing is done by the reinforcement fibers. Next question is reinforcement phase is dash and matrix phase is this. Also again we can refer back to this table. You can see reinforcement phase, which are the fibers, have a better strength and are more stiff and strong, whereas from these properties you can see the matrix are weaker and less stiff. So we can answer to this that reinforcement phase is more stiff and strong, whereas the matrix phase is less stiff and weaker. Also this statement, there are another option called this, which you can see from this diagram. As I explained in the first question only, the reinforcements are discontinuous, whereas matrix acts as continuous. So this has two answers. In an assignment also you have questions like that, which is more than one answer. So be careful, read all the options, and according to that you mark the answers. Okay. So the next question is the constituents in a composite combine in dash scale, whereas those in alloy combine in this. As I explained already in second question, that in we can actually distinguish different composites, different components of a composite by a naked eye. So it is a microscopic scale, where for alloy we cannot do it from naked eyes and we need a microscope. So it is in a microscopic scale. So next is a equation. It says it's a question that Young's modulus and density of graphite fiber is 230 gigapascal and 1800 kg per meter cube respectively, and Young modulus of density of steel is 206 gigapascal and 7800 kg per meter cube respectively. So the ratio of the specific modulus of graphite fiber to that of steel is. Very simple question. So first we will see what is a specific modulus. So specific modulus is Young's modulus divided by this mass density, which is this equation. So now they are asking the ratio of specific modulus of graphite fiber. As you can see, the Young's modulus and density of graphite fiber is already there, to that of steel, and steel's Young's modulus and density is also given. So from that we put them in this equation and find the ratio, which should the value should come between 4.8 to 5. Next question is the ultimate tensile strength and density of unidirectional graphite and epoxy are 1500 megapascal and 1600 kg per meter cube. Here unidirectional graphite / epoxy is actually a whole composite, where graphite unidirectional fibers of graphite is reinforcement and epoxy is the matrix. And then the ultimate tensile strength and density of steel are 648 megapascal and 7800 kg per meter cube, So we have to find the ratio of the specific strength of graphite by epoxy to that of steel. It is kind of same as the previous one, but here they are asking of specific strength. So what is specific strength? Specific strength is the ultimate tensile strength divided by the mass density. These all are already there in sir's class videos also. So here you will get the specific strength. Now to find the ratio of the specific strength of graphite / epoxy to that steel, you find the ratio and it will come around 11 to 12. Okay. Any doubts anyone has? Should I move forward? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm audible, right? Good. The next question is, glass fibers have this chemical resistance and dash conductivity compared to carbon fiber. These are normal literature questions, which is there is nothing to explain. It is a normal theory that glass fibers generally have a higher chemical resistance and lower conductivity compared to carbon fibers. Similarly, glass fibers have lower specific modulus and lower specific strength compared to carbon fibers. These are just theory questions. So next comes from assignment 2, the module 2 that sir has discussed. From that there are some sample questions I have taken. So first question is generalized Hooke's law. You see this is the equation of stress strain and elastic constants where IJKL equal to 1 to 3 and CIJKL is a, so here you can see this whole matrix. So stress matrix you can get in 9 cross 1, whereas strain also 9 cross 1, and the elastic constants will form a 9 into 9, which is 81 values in it. So according to the tensor, mostly there are for scalar there we know the definition which has a value, vector which has value and direction. Then comes tensor, which is actually an array in 3 dimensions, and it will come as 3 cross 1 form, a matrix. When we increase the tensor, then comes to second order, third order, fourth order, it's in like 3 to the power something. So here you can see stress, there are 9 into 1 components, which is total 9 components in it, which is 3 to the power 2. So stress here is a second order tensor. Similarly, strain here is 9 cross 1, which is 3 to the power 2. So it is also a second order tensor. Whereas the elastic constraints, which is here this whole stiffness matrix. So this stiffness matrix has 81 components in it, which is 9 cross 9. You can see in this matrix 9 cross 9, so you are getting 81. So which is 3 to the power 4. So this makes a fourth order tensor. So answer for this CIJKL is a fourth order tensor. Next question, match the following: type of material and number of independent elastic constants. These all the matrices I took from the class notes of sir only. So here you can see anisotropic material are those which has properties of the material it changes in different directions. So it forms this whole matrix, but sir has explained how it is a symmetrical matrix, because of which we have we will get 21 independent elastic constants. Then comes monoclinic, which is elastic solid has one plane of material properties symmetrical. As you see, there are x, y and z planes, and in monoclinic one of that plane, like take it as xy. Xy can I draw? Okay, xy axis is the between those axes there will be the plane xy plane. So we take that as a symmetric plane. So if the xy plane is a symmetric, so the z and z dash will have same kind of properties. So this is what a monoclinic means. So only one of the plane is in symmetric and other two are not in symmetric. For that we are getting this matrix for the stiffness. This we are getting stiffness matrix. So here you can see these values get 0, and after this diagonal below all are symmetric. So according to that we are getting how many independent elastic constants? only 13 independent elastic constraints. So as you can see, the answer will be B. The first for anisotropic, second we are getting A, 21 independent elastic constant from this matrix. Whereas monoclinic, the third one we are getting D, 13. Then next comes orthotropic, where all the three planes of material property are symmetric. That means xy, yz, zx all are symmetric. So x and x dash will also be same, y and y dash will be same, and z and z dash will also be same, like the mirror. So for that, this is the matrix we are getting. I am not explaining how this matrices has come. They are explained well in sir's lectures. So I am just taking that directly from there. As you can see, this is the matrix you will get, and also there is the point of symmetry. So from that we will get 9 independent elastic constraints for orthotropic. Then comes isotropic, which is the most simple one, and here the property remains same in every direction. So for that we only need two independent elastic constraints, that is Young modulus and Poisson ratio. And from that, and also there is an equation of shear modulus, which is a equation relating Young's modulus and Poisson ratio. So from that only we need to, so three properties are mostly required. Of that, two are independent and one is dependent, that is shear modulus here. So for isotropic, we will need only two independent elastic constants. Okay. Next comes, in stress-strain relation for a fully anisotropic material, which of the following is true? This is a graph which is of compliance matrix relation with stress and strain. So here, sir has shown this this matrix in his lectures, where you can see the different constants. They are called shear extension coupling, extension coupling, then extensions, shear coupling, and their meaning is also explained in the class only. So I took this matrix and then I compared it with the one for fully anisotropic material. So while comparing this, you can easily answer the question that which of this is true. So all the extension coupling terms are 0. So these are the extension coupling terms, so they are not 0. So this is not true. All shear extension coupling terms are 0. So these are the shear extension coupling terms are this, and these are also not 0. And neither are the shear coupling terms are 0. So which comes with the final option that all of them are non-zero. Same thing for an orthotropic material. When I compare it with this matrix, we can see that all the shear extension coupling terms are 0. Like these terms are 0. Other than that, the extension coupling, the extension and shear coupling are non-zero. So this will be the option. All the shear extension coupling terms are 0. And also for an isotropic material, here all the extension coupling terms are 0. As it is asked, which of this is not true? So only the extension coupling terms are the one non-zero, and it is saying that it is 0, so it will be false. So this will be the answer. In the stiffness matrix and the compliance matrix, okay, so these whole session will already is recorded. So you will find this in YouTube also. I will upload this in YouTube. So every session that I will take of doubt clearing every week, it will be all uploaded in YouTube also. So you can revisit these questions. And also, if you are joining late today, like many of you have joined, you can see this in YouTube when I will upload it, and then you can go through this whole video, as it has sample problems which are directly related to the questions that are asked in the assignment. So it will be very helpful for you to solve your assignment directly. Some of the questions are very much related to it, so I think it will be very helpful. So yes, you can see all this in YouTube. I think the link will be shared to you by NPTEL, or otherwise next, if it is not shared, then let me know. Next session I will share the link of the YouTube class. Okay. Nikhil was raising hand. Were you asking some question, or it was when I asked if I'm audible? Am I audible, right? I'm audible, right? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Continue.
Any doubts till now? Anybody wants to ask anything? Have you guys tried the assignments yet? Assignment 1 and 2. I know the due date is 8. Anybody
Yes,
tried?
ma'am. We have tried.
Okay, so have you finished your assignment 1 and 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you finding any help from this video? Like the slides that I have made, are they related to the assignment?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So in the stiffness matrix and compliance matrix, the diagonal terms must always be positive. Why? Because the diagonal terms are the one which are the direct values of any stress or stress value given to any material. So if you are giving a stress in one direction, so its modulus should come positive. Otherwise, how you will relate the strain to it? So for every stress, the strain relation will be always direct to it. So here you can see I have written that if displacement is given at a certain node, then the action at node should always develop in that direction of the displacement. So if the direction is same, that means it will be always positive. So it goes for, this is a stiffness matrix, the same goes for compliance matrix also. That's why the main diagonal elements in stiffness matrix is always positive, cannot be negative at all. Next question. With respect to Cartesian coordinate xyz, state of stress at a point in an orthotropic material is this, then the strains induced will be. Okay. So I have already discussed what is an orthotropic material. So an orthotropic material is in which all the x, y, y, z, z, x planes are symmetric. So for x you will get a mirror x dash, y you will get a mirror y dash, z you will get mirror z dash, which will have the same properties. So for this, when you are giving a certain stress, this sigma x, then for that I think I can draw.
Ma'am, in full screen view only you can draw it. You can go there, right click, you will get a pointer option there.
Okay. So here you are giving a stress in x direction. This is sigma x. So when you are giving in x direction, there will be a shift in x direction, and because of that there will be transverse change also in y and z direction. And now you know Poisson ratio, which is the transverse stress divided by axial stress. So you are giving one axial, because of that you are getting transverse changes also in y and z direction, which is related by Poisson. So if we are getting Poisson and stress, you can relate them and also get strain in y and z direction. So for a single stress in one direction x, we are getting strain in x direction. Because of transverse load in y and z, we are getting Poisson ratio. From that we are getting strain in y and z direction also. So these three values, strain in x, y and z, are not negative. But there is, with only one stress perpendicular, we are not getting any shear. That's why the shear stress in all the directions will be 0. So for this, the orthotropic material, you are getting that the strain is non-zero in all the directions, whereas the shear stress is 0 in all directions. Now in orthotropic materials, this orthotropic materials are characterized by what? So physically we can only calculate in UTM machine. All these properties are theoretical, but what we can practically find when we are testing a material in a UTM, universal testing machine, is the Young modulus, Poisson ratio, and shear modulus. And also there is an equation between Young's modulus and Poisson ratio to find the shear modulus. So when it is an orthotropic material, that is in x, y and z direction, its properties are changing, different. So for x, y, z direction, we are getting 3 Young's modulus, and for those we are getting 3 Poisson ratio and also 3 shear modulus. So these are the elastic constraint which form the stiffness matrix are not directly measured from the laboratory test on a material. So one can measure the engineering constraints like Young modulus, shear modulus and Poisson ratio from laboratory tests. So these for an orthotropic material will be 3. So here the answer will be 3 Young's moduli, 3 Poisson's ratio and 3 shear moduli can be characterized physically for an orthotropic material. And the last is a question: a specimen made from an orthotropic material is tested along perpendicular direction 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 are the planes of orthotropy in an UTM to obtain Young's modulus. So either in one direction it is perpendicular and this. So two directions we are specimen made of orthotropy material is tested along perpendicular direction 1 and 2 and in UTM to obtain the Young's modulus and Poisson ratio, and the following data is obtained. That is, in one direction the Young's modulus is 200 gigapascal and the second direction it is 20, whereas the Poisson ratio relating 1 and 2 is 0.3. So what will be the possible value of Poisson ratio in 2, 1? As you can see, the notation 1 and 2, their values won't be the same, they are different, and it is defined in the lecture. The relation is that the compliance compliance matrix constant Sij will be equal to Sji. So according to that, the equation we will get is Poisson ratio divided by elastic Young's modulus, mu21 divided by E21 will be equal to mu12 divided by E12. So from this equation, put these values in this equation, you can easily get the answer as 0.03. Okay, so these are the few questions that I have created. So I thought that it will be helpful for you to solve the assignments. So any doubts in the questions that I have discussed?
I mean, question number 16.
Yes.
In this one, in the video, sir has explained that as you said, as per the sentence given in the left side, it has to be positive, okay, as per the analysis. But sir said one sentence that according to first law of thermodynamics, it has to be positive mathematically. So how is it? Is it possible to explain that? According to first law of thermodynamics, they should be positive. In next video, if you explain next video, then also it's okay, ma'am.
I will write down this and I will look into it, and then next class I will explain to you.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Who asked the question?
B. Vishwas.
Okay. Yeah. I will get back to you. Next class I will let you know after studying about it. Okay.
Okay, 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 okay.
Any other doubts? If you don't have doubts now, even next class also you can ask. Even after, like even from the material that sir had taught, next class you can ask me after doing the assignment. But this session was mostly for helping you with the assignment. And okay, so if you have doubt which you are not thinking about now, maybe you can write it down, and next class we can discuss about it. Next Friday. Okay. Anyone wants to say or talk about anything?
Ma'am, that determination of Young's modulus, Poisson's ratio, and shear modulus experimentally, is it possible to explain in the next class? We know about the Young's modulus, then that shear modulus and Poisson's ratio experimentally, how do you get it?
Those values. Okay, I will next class how a UTM works and how to get the value. I will get to it. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Anything else? Jyoti, have you tried solving the assignments yet? No. Jyoti, you are not audible. You are not mute, but you are not audible. Prem Kumar?
Madam?
So you started doing the assignments yet?
No, madam. Monday onwards, I am going to start.
Okay. The submission is 8th, so before that. In next class, I will discuss the assignment 3 sample problems. Okay.
Okay, madam.
And also, all this whole session is being recorded, so you can find it in YouTube also. And if I think the course NPTEL, they will share with you the link, or otherwise, next class I will give you the link of the place channel where you can get the session. Okay.
Okay.
So if you are having doubts when you are doing your assignments, you can refer back to this video. Raviraj Singh Rana.
Yes, ma'am.
So have you started doing the assignments?
No, ma'am, अभी नहीं किया.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, which book we can follow for this course?
I think in website
Textbook.
they have given the book name, right?
They have given 3 books.
Anyway, sir's notes are enough, I think. But if you want to, you can check those books. And even if after solving, a lot of you have not already solved the assignment 1 and 2. So next session, even if after submitting the assignment, if you have doubts also, you can ask me in the next session also, okay? So a lot of you have not done it yet. So you will not be aware of the problems that are asked in the assignment. So if you have doubts, next class also you can ask me. Okay, so do you have any doubts or should I end the session?
Okay, ma'am. If there are no more problems, we will end the session.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. So you have any doubts? Next class, ask me. Even after assignment is done, it's okay. Second assignment, first second assignment, if you have doubts, we can discuss that in next class also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you. It's okay, Jyoti. You can message next time. You can write in the chat if you have doubt. Okay. Do you have any doubts, Jyoti? Okay, okay. Do the assignment. After doing the assignment, if you have doubts still, next class we can discuss. Okay. Next session, next Friday. Thank you.